Hey friends, Bishop Rob here with you. Today, NASA announced a major change to the Artemis program, a delay to the first lunar landing of the program, and a restructuring of how we're going to return to the moon. Now, at first glance, it sounds like a step backwards, but when you place Artemis beside Apollo, something interesting appears. This may actually be NASA going old school in the best possible way. Let's take a look at what changed. Now, the original plan aimed for astronauts riding the SLS rocket to land on Artemis 3. Now, the flight that's getting ready to go, Artemis 2, is a lunar flyby, so we would have gone straight to a lunar landing in probably about 2 to 3 years, depending upon various factors. What NASA has announced today is they're actually going to add a mission between, there'll be the new Artemis 3, it'll be an opportunity to test landing, the landing vehicle, the human landing system, together with operations before an attempt is made to land on the moon. Now, to some observers, this is going to feel like a delay, but spaceflight has a way of punishing you if you get overly impatient. Each mission is a little less like a single event and a little bit more like a chain of proofs. Each system gets verified before a human life depends on it. So the Orion spacecraft that is riding atop that SLS rocket, this is designed for deep space operation, far beyond low Earth orbit. But it's not able to land on the moon. And right now, we don't have in the arsenal a human lander that's viable in time, really, for the Artemis 3 mission. The previous design of the program would have had NASA going from an uncrewed test, which was Artemis 1 about 3 years ago, to Artemis 2, this swing around, to Artemis 3, a landing, just on successive flights. And that's not necessarily the smartest move. So while this may seem like a retreat, I honestly see something a little bit different. It looks like stepping backward in an intelligent way, returning to that methodology by which we got to the moon on Apollo. It's really what made it workable in the first place. NASA succeeded during the Apollo program because it resisted the temptation to do everything at once. Yes, it took some chances here and there, sometimes with very bad results, other times with very good results. But the new Artemis 3 test flight is going to be roughly analogous to Apollo 9, which launched on a Saturn V, carried the first lunar module that a human being would get into orbit, ran it through its paces. Now, that is after the lunar module was launched on a Saturn 1B earlier to be tested out as well. NASA leadership for this new flight of SLS that is being manifested has left open the possibility of rendezvous and docking with either Starship, which has been the SpaceX competitor in the human landing system, or Blue Origin's Blue Moon lander. And at this point, who knows if we're going to have something ready to go in a year, and who knows if we'll have one or two ready to go by the time that the new Artemis 3 launches. But the approach to testing in Earth orbit makes sense to verify that interoperability with both options, if we can do that. Now, there is a certain political side to this. I'm really not going to dwell on the ones from the announcement that felt like repetitive electioneering and so forth and so on. But one political aspect that's going to have some real consequences in the months ahead is the reported cancellation of the Block 1B version of the Space Launch System. That's going to carry with it economic implications, and economic implications invariably, I should say, become political ones. So even apart from politics, though, the engineering questions that we have about this now are going to become very, very interesting. You see, a major unknown is, are they going to do anything to replace this interim cryogenic upper stage that currently is used with the SLS vehicle. If the exploration upper stage planned for the Block 1B is indeed abandoned, then the lift capacity of the SLS system decreases, and that has direct consequences for mission architecture downstream. Your payload margins are going to shrink, your flight strategies change, you get the idea. And these aren't small adjustments. They reshape how Artemis is potentially going to operate. Now, ultimately, the real question may not even be as much about hardware at all as it is about cadence. The most remarkable part, in my opinion, of the Saturn booster program was the year from November of 68 to November of 1969. 5 Saturn V launches in 13 months. Each mission built directly upon the last, and lessons were learned quickly and integrated into practice because the flights were happening so often. We've now went 3 years since SLS had its maiden launch. You're losing a degree of wisdom, not only by staff attrition, but also just by not having the physical hardware to work with in a more compressed time span. And I think we heard that, a voice given to that during today's conversations in the press conference. You know, a 6-month launch rhythm, something Apollo eventually approached, would be ideal today. But without a firm commitment to the Space Launch System beyond Artemis 5, it's unclear whether increased cadence can translate into sustained exploration into the 2030s. At this point, we only have interim upper stages through Artemis 3. And so can we go back to the assembly line and pull 2 more? That interim upper stage is based on architecture for the Delta IV, which is now out of service. So if that tooling still survives, which I've not heard that it's been destroyed, then maybe we can tool up a couple of additional interim upper stages. But you know, who knows where that's going to wind up going. Now, to be clear, I want to say this. I don't believe that today's announcement from NASA represents a slowing down. I believe this is NASA's moment to decide if we're going to return to the moon for a moment or if we're going to go back for good. Whenever we talk about returning to the moon, I'm reminded that human beings have been looking to the skies since we came to be. Long before rockets, we looked to the moon and to the stars and wondered what they were and what was beyond them. Spaceflight, for me anyway, and I think for many people, isn't simply a matter of engineering. Spaceflight is a refusal to believe that we see all that there is. As a person of faith, I can't help but see that impulse as something both human and divinely planted within us. Scripture often speaks of the heavens declaring glory, not because we escape Earth, but because exploration awakens wonder. Perhaps reaching for the moon isn't about leaving home, but about learning how vast creation is and how small yet meaningful our place within it truly is. Apollo, this taught us how to get to the moon, how to rendezvous, dock, descend, return safely to the Earth. In some respects, we may say that's old school. But Apollo taught us wisdom, sometimes at great cost. Artemis may now be learning how to go wisely. Because exploration succeeds not when we move the fastest, but when we move faithfully, step by step. What we must decide now is, are we heading to an abortive step or to a next giant leap? And that's an answer that only time will tell. Thanks for joining me today. Please share your thoughts and comments on the Artemis change. And if you found this meaningful, give it a like, a share, maybe even subscribe to the channel. Have a great day. Thanks for joining me.